Hello, everybody. Welcome to this conversation. Welcome to some big Texas hair. Am I from Texas? No. Can I do Texas hair? Yes. I'm Crystal Crawford, for those of you guys that don't know me, and welcome to Infinite Being School, the most non-school school you've ever been a part of, where you can choose or don't choose, and where my whole target is to create us into the awareness, to create more of an awareness that we are an infinite being with infinite choices and infinite possibilities. So welcome. We are going to dive into, in this conversation, conversation 4 in the Energy Pulse series. And the way that I titled this went like this. Basically, are you more powerful when your mind is online, or do you have more access to your abilities when it's offline? Is your mind helpful or your greatest limitation? And what else is possible? And what if you could create while you sleep? In truth, guys, this mind conversation is not necessarily related to creating while you sleep, but I'm sort of putting them together because I'm so thrilled to invite you to the latest addition to the Energy Pulse shop. It's called Creating in My Sleep. And it's different than the other energy pulls in the shop in that it's got a few parts to it. And so let me talk a little bit more about your mind and whether or not that's actually a gift or not. And then we'll talk more about what I was aware of when I created this exercise for me that I'm going to gift to you. It's pretty fucking awesome. So, okay. Hi, Diana. So first things first, is your mind a gift? Basically, there's... I get into a lot of conversations about this. I myself have been a very cognitive person while simultaneously following the energy, basically. And so where I get into kind of conflict with people, it's not conflict, where people's kind of confusion comes up around this, like, why would you want me to get rid of my mind? Isn't it my mind that runs my body? Isn't it my mind that allows everything physically to work? And the answer is no. There's two different parts of us when it comes to this part up here. There's the mind, which is invented, and the brain, which runs your body. Now, the mind is actually, it's a card categorization system. It can only pull from the past. So have any of you guys tried to create your life from your mind? Pretty much for the most part, that's what I was trying to do before Access. In fact, I have a story about this. So when I was, oh my God, I don't even know what age I was, whatever. I was getting divorced for the first time. My husband and I at the time had owned a pizzeria. And I had been in the restaurant industry at that point, probably, 12, 13 years. So I had a lot of restaurant experience. I had just left the relationship and therefore left the pizzeria. So I'd been working in a restaurant for 2 or 3 years. And with that gone and him gone, I needed to change my life. Now this was kind of the first, one of the first major times that I changed my life. This is pre-Access Consciousness. And so I immediately got into a new relationship. I ended up marrying that guy. So I had 2 husbands, bam, bam, right back to back. And I'm in this new relationship and he's really wanting to support me to make a career change, essentially. And he was a great guy and very much human reality. So I say that because humanoid reality is what would be fun? What are you great at that you can make money at? Human reality is what can you choose that will provide you a career that you love, that you want to stay in for the next 20, 30 years. And so he was really supportive in me finding that. Well, I didn't know I was humanoid. So, but the one thing I did know, and kudos to me for knowing this, I knew that if I didn't like it, I wouldn't keep doing it. So I had just enough information to make a spreadsheet. I literally made a spreadsheet. And I was like, and this was all from my mind, okay? What are the things that I really love in a job? Now, what's interesting is that this exercise that I took myself through on a spreadsheet that I used logic to create, I could have actually used it to get the energy of those things, which I didn't know anything about, which is why I'm doing this whole series, because I'm Actually, the stuff that you're trying to do with your mind, you can get the energy of and then create it. But what I did instead was logic, because that's what I knew. So I logically knew that I needed something that was going to be interesting to me, something that was creative, something that worked with people, and preferably something that got me outside. I think I had like 4 elements at that time. And so then I went from my mind, making a list of the different careers that I thought could match that. So, I mean, I don't know, I think I came up with 3. And one of them had to do with music, and that was going to require a lot of school. There was another one, and then there was the third one, which was kind of unlikely, but I had sort of inadvertently discovered I might like it, which was landscape designer. It seemed very random to me, but I had spent a few months in this previous summer kind of working on a landscaping crew for this guy that had no plan ever when he went into the job. And so every time I went in as the crew member, and yes, I was the only girl on the team, and yes, I did landscaping for a summer with 2 guys that were 19. I was like 30. That was a whole story in and of itself. They hated me. I'm like, why doesn't she pull her weight? And I literally like worked myself to the bone. Anyway, but every choice creates awareness. And the awareness that I gained out of that was that I could do a better job than this guy. He was terrible at running a business. He was always behind. He had no plan. And what I learned was that when you go into a job like this, not knowing what you're going to do, and you're facing like a big hill where you're going to put a staircase and you have no idea what the distance is and how many stairs you need, you're always going to be behind, and you're always going to be like pinch hitting to try to figure out anyway. So I came out of that job going, I could do this better than him. And that was enough information for my mind to go, okay, well, what does it take to be a landscape designer? So I used the logic of, I knew certain things logically I needed to have there. And I went to the school, I started searching, and I found a landscape designer certificate that I could get online in like 6 months. And I was like, okay, that's doable. I can't go to school for another 3 years, but yeah, it is. So I went and became I got my certification online, went through all the classes, learned how to landscape design, which was really interesting. It taught me a lot about plants. It taught me a lot about design, aesthetics. So I've now translated that into interior design. I have really exciting things to show you in our house out there. There was a lot about it that was really stimulating to me. And then in like month 5, so I was going to graduate in 6 months. In month 5, I realized I'm about to graduate. Like, how am I going to use this? And it started stimulating my muscles of like growing a business again. So I ended up having landscape design clients before I even graduated because I got to work and I got creative. So your mind is not a bad thing. I mean, this isn't about bad or good. It takes you as far as it can take you. And I got into landscape design. I have this creative ability with connecting with people, so I ended up getting clients, and then I ended up getting a job with a company that provided more stable money. That was another thing I chose from my mind. This makes sense to get a job with this and not have my own business because of stable money. So again, another thing I created with my mind. The thing was about all these things that I created. I chose them, I created them, they were from logic, is that they sort of worked. Okay, this is the thing to get about finite possibilities. Finite things sort of work. They sort of work because you've done the best you can with the tools you have available, and with the information you have available, you've done the best you can. So here I was doing the best I could, choosing from the resources I knew about, which was my mind, and it sort of worked, but sort of didn't. Like, the job that I took that was supposed to provide stable money was seasonal, so it was like 4 months of stable money. The guys were insane. It was like a whole series of things that didn't quite work. And if I had known the tools of energy, I could have done something different, right? This is the infinite possibilities of what energy can provide you. What the universe can provide you is infinitely better than you can possibly imagine. You can't even imagine the better. I could have gotten the energy of having what's the energy of having a stable paycheck with landscape design? What is that energy? That's definitely a different energy than always going out and hustling for jobs, right? What is that energy? Okay, what's that paycheck like? What's that energy? What's my work environment like? What's that energy? And I could have, with this new information, pulled all the energy of the universe into that and asked the universe to show me. Ask the universe to show me. What are the infinite possibilities of these energies showing up? Now, who even knows what would have shown up from there? But if you fast forward, I don't know, 10 years when I found Access Consciousness, that's exactly how I created what I'm doing now. I got the energy of it. And then I started choosing from it. And what evolved from it was this way of living, basically, that includes you guys and creating stuff. So neither one is right and neither one is wrong. It's just your mind is limited to what it knows, the experience it's had, to what it's heard, to the past, basically. Your mind is limited to that. So when you create from your mind, that's what you get, is limited stuff. When you create from the infinite possibilities, from the energy of something instead of the logic of something, you have access to an infinite universe of possibilities that you yourself never in a billion years could have even imagined. So let's tie that into creating while you sleep, because it's not necessarily tied. Just so you know, this conversation stands alone. But I'm pairing it with this creating while you sleep thing because we're so dependent on our mind, we think that a lot of us think that we can only generate if we're using our mind actively. So if we're asleep, that's dead time. That is not true. And if you guys have played in Access Consciousness a long time, you know this already. I can't tell you how, ever since I've gotten involved in Access Consciousness, I have used every single waking and sleeping moment to change my life. So I constantly have clearing loops playing. Probably what's coming down the pike is like Crystal's Clearing Loop Club or something like that, because I'm constantly running them on myself, so why not let you guys have them? But the other thing I became aware of is that there's this so clearing unconsciousness is one part of our job, right? If we want something different. But the other part of our job as the inventors of different realities for ourselves is the generation of something new. And I was like, is it possible to generate something new also, like forward generation of something new? And it's yes. So this creating in your sleep energy pull is actually more like 2 energy exercises, and one of them is designed to use basically flop on your bed after a day, throw your headphones in and let your body relax and take yourself through this unwinding of your day. Because one of the things that limits us more than anything is definition. And, I'm not perfect. I get to the end of my days a lot of times and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was a lot, In various states. Sometimes I'm super grateful, sometimes I'm super angsty, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm this, sometimes I'm that, whatever. I choose stuff. So this takes you through the unraveling of your days, pock and potting and thymus stuff, exercises and energy pulls. And the second one is it's like a 4-hour thing that you can just run in the background while you sleep that takes you through generating your phenomenal life. And I can't wait for you to have this because, man, I pulled this directly out of the reference materials. It's so good. And it was partnered in the same conversation of how we used to limit our phenomenal life with our mind. And I think my story is a great example. It's like, it wasn't a bad life. It was a fine life. It was a fine life. It's fine. But was it everything that I knew it could be? No. Did I know how to get there? Fuck no. There was no infinite being school at that time. So now I do. Now I do. Now we do. Now we have the tools to generate a phenomenal life. So in this bundle of Creating in My Sleep is an audio explanation of the stuff. There's that 10-minute before bed exercise. There's going to be the 4-hour thing that you can, it's got binaural beats. It's just going to lull you to sleep. You can just let it play. You don't even have to put it on repeat. Just press play for 4 hours. It'll go. It'll just stop when it's done. And it's designed to take you when your mind is offline. This is when you're most powerful, when your mind's not involved. This is why entities can come to you, and that's a whole other series. Your mind's offline, and so your being can then vibrate and generate something totally new in your sleep. Okay? What would it take for us to relinquish control? This is a big ask, but I'm asking. What would it take for us to relinquish the control we think is more valuable than the receiving and the perceiving and the knowing and the ability we have to create with and as energy. That's my ask. So if this helped you, share it with a friend, because I know a lot of us out there are constantly looking at like, okay, this is fine, and like, what does it take to have great? It's possible. It's possible when you are able to start getting the energy of things. So check out the link in the comments and in the descriptions. If it's for you, pick it up. Share this with a friend if it gifted to you, and I will see you in the next conversation.